I'm incredibly nervous to talk in front of you because you've got to be one of the most formidable people that I've ever heard of or ever listened to or ever seen. So my question is, again, you're one of the best communicators that I've ever listened to. If I could be half as good at you or at communicating as you are, I would be set. How can I teach myself to do that?
Practice. You know, really, like, well, there's a couple of things. Helps to read a lot. It really helps to write. So if you want to make yourself articulate, which is a very good idea, then not only should you read, but you should write down what you think. And if you can do that a little bit every day, 15 minutes, maybe you could steal 15 minutes and do it every day. But if you do that for 10 years, you really straighten out your thinking. If you're going to speak effectively, you have to know way more than you're talking about, you know. So this is often difficult for beginning lecturers at university because they'll do a lecture on a topic, but they only know as much as they're saying in the lecture. And they get kind of stuck to their notes because of it. But you want to know 10 times as much as you are saying in the lecture, and then you can specify a stepping path through it and elaborate with the other things that you know. But to do that, you have to do a lot of reading. But you also have to do a lot of reading because that's where the synthesizing comes. So that's on the input side. And then on the output side, well, there's some techniques, let's say, is like if you're speaking in front of a group, you are not delivering a talk to a group. That's not what you're doing. The talk isn't a packaged thing that you present to a group. There isn't a group. There's a bunch of individuals, and you talk to them. So when I talk to a group, I always talk to people one at a time. And that makes it easier too, because you know how to talk to a person. It's like, can you talk to 1,000 people? Well, probably not, because it's too intimidating. But there isn't 1,000 people there. There's 1,000 individuals. And so you just look at an individual and you say something, and you can tell if they're engaged. They look confused, or they look interested, or they look angry, or they look bored, or maybe they're asleep, in which case you look at someone else. And they give you feedback about how you're doing. And so one thing is to have something to say, yeah, but the next thing is pay attention to who you're talking to. Because unless you're very badly socialized, and that seems unlikely in your case because, you know, you present yourself at least moderately well, you know. And, well, I mean, I don't know you very well, but on first sight, you know, you're doing fine. So the probability that if you pay attention to the individuals that you're talking to, that your natural wealth of social skill will manifest itself is extremely high. And so you don't deliver a talk to an audience. That's a really bad way of thinking about it. You're actually engaged in a conversation with an audience. Even if they're not talking, they're nodding and shifting position and, you know, looking like this, and you can pull all that in and use it to govern the level at which you're addressing the entire audience. So the last thing I would say is, well, having the aim to be a good communicator is a good start. And you think, well, I could buttress that to some degree. Well, there isn't anything that you can possibly, this is the whole point of a liberal education, there isn't anything that you can possibly do that makes you more competent in everything you do than to learn how to communicate. I don't care if you're going to be a carpenter. I mean, being a carpenter, by the way, is very difficult, especially if you're a good carpenter. But if you're good at communicating as a carpenter, you're like 10 times better as a carpenter. So, and this is something that the liberal arts colleges, I think, I don't know if they've forgotten it, but they don't do a very good job of marketing. It's like, well, what's the use of a bachelor's degree, a Bachelor of Arts? It's like, well, you can think, you can write, you can speak, you've read something. It's like, the economic value of that is incalculable. The people that I've watched in my life who've been spectacularly successful they have skills. Clearly, that's a minimum precondition. But they're also very, very good at articulating themselves. And so whenever they negotiate, they're successful. Well, that's kind of like the definition of success in life, right? It doesn't mean you win. Because if you're a good negotiator, if you're a really good negotiator, everybody walks away from the negotiation thrilled. And so then people line up to do things with you. So, and that's all dependent on your ability to communicate. So, practice.
조던 피터슨은 방대한 지식을 강조했습니다. 대부분의 사람들은 지식의 한계가 명확해서 주제를 벗어나며 대화를 이끌어가기가 어렵습니다. 만약 한 주제에 대해 한 이야기만 할 수 있다면 지식의 범위가 그 주제 하나로 제한되게 됩니다. 그러면 사람들한테 더 많은 다양한 이야기를 들려주기에는 굉장히 어려워지죠. 하지만 한 주제에 대해 다양한 지식을 갖추고 있다면, 그리고 다양한 주제까지 섭렵하게 된다면 이야기는 달라지게 됩니다. 그에 의하면 하나의 흐름을 따라가는 다양한 주제를 종합할 수 있어요. 이렇게 다양한 분야의 지식이 하나로 합쳐지게 되면서 기존의 사람들에게 알려지지 않았던 인사이트가 생기게 됩니다. 그는 인풋뿐만 아니라 아웃풋도 강조하였어요. 아웃풋 파트는 강연 스킬을 알려주었는데요. 강연을 할 때 강연한다고 생각하지 말라고 해요. 우리는 발표를 하게 되면 강연한다 라고 생각을 하죠. 그러나 엄밀히 말해서 그들은 청중이라기보다 한 사람의 개개인으로 구성되어 있습니다. 이 원리를 활용해서 발표를 하라고 하죠. 제가 실제 강연장에서 강의를 할 때도 똑같은 방식으로 합니다. 강연장에 올라가서 강단에 서게 되면 가벼운 인사를 먼저 하게 됩니다. 저는 그때 사람들의 반응을 살펴봐요. 누군가는 자고 있고 누군가는 표정이 굉장히 안 좋고 그 중에서 누군가는 초롱초롱 빛나는 눈빛을 하고 계시는 분들이 있어요. 아주 가벼운 인사만 건네더라도 강연에 집중할 수 있는 사람과 없는 사람이 구분이 되게 됩니다. 그때 저는 초롱초롱 빛나는 눈빛의 분들을 점 찍어 두어요. 그리고 그분들을 번갈아 가면서 준비한 이야기를 말하게 됩니다. 그들은 제가 어떤 말을 하더라도 아주 잘 반응해 주는 사람들이기 때문에 굉장히 자신감이 붙은 상태로 발표를 할 수 있게 돼요. 그러면 더 말을 잘하게 되고 강연을 성공적으로 마칠 수가 있습니다. 여기까지가 아웃풋에 대한 이야기입니다. 근데 저는 여기서 덧붙여서 적용까지 말씀드리고 싶어요. 내가 인풋에서 지식을 쌓고 실제 그 지식을 질서정연하게 정리한 아웃풋 다음에는 반드시 행동으로 적용해야 됩니다. 지식 그 자체는 우리를 성장하게 하지 않습니다. 실제 행동으로 적용하는 과정에서 우리는 성장하게 됩니다. 조던 피터슨의 말처럼 독서 글쓰기도 의미 있습니다. 하지만 이것만 인풋, 아웃풋이 아니에요. 넷플릭스를 보고 생각 정리를 한 다음 글쓰기를 하는 것 또한 인풋, 아웃풋 과정이고 지식의 융합이 일어날 수 있어요. 독서 글쓰기 수단에 집착하지 말고 본질적 방법에 집중하세요. 본질은 인풋과 아웃풋 그리고 적용입니다. 이 방법이 어떤 분야에서든 자신의 몸값을 높이고 성장하는 방법입니다. 특히 전문성을 갖고 있는 직업을 가지신 분들은 더더욱 그렇습니다. 기획자, 디자이너와 협업을 굉장히 잘하는 개발자, 고객의 마음을 잘 이해하는 의사, 변호사가 그 예입니다. 전문성을 겸비한 커뮤니케이션은 성장 채택키입니다. 이 방식대로 여러분들의 커리어를 성장시켜서 나아가시기 바랍니다. 여러분들의 성공 마인드 동반자 작심만일입니다.